The Elder Scrolls has some of the most hilariously broken magic systems in gaming history, from potions that make you literally omnipotent, to enchantments that delete you from reality, to exploits that turn the entire game into a joke. Today I'm breaking down every single one of them and explaining exactly how they work, starting with the one that every Morrowind player discovers eventually: Morrowind Alchemy Stacking. Here's the thing about Morrowind's alchemy system. It's not broken in some obscure, hard-to-find way. It's broken in the most obvious way possible, and the game just lets you do it. You drink a potion that makes you smarter, and then you use that smartness to make a better potion that makes you even smarter. Repeat until you're basically a god. That's it. That's the exploit. Potion strength in Morrowind scales directly with your intelligence stat and your alchemy skill at the moment you craft it. Fortify intelligence potions exist. You can drink them before making new ones. Each iteration multiplies the strength of the next batch, and there is zero cap on how high this can go. Players routinely hit intelligence values in the thousands within a single in-game day. Some random apprentice in Balmora becoming functionally omnipotent before lunchtime, and once your intelligence is in the stratosphere, everything else follows. Fortify speed potions that make you cross the entire map in seconds. Fortify health potions that give you more hit points than every enemy in the game combined. Potions worth so much gold that you crash the entire Morrowind economy by selling 3 of them. You become a one-person hyperinflation event. But here's where it gets funny. Drink a Fortify speed potion brewed at 8,000 intelligence, and you move so fast, you clip through doors, overshoot buildings, and launch yourself into the stratosphere. Pair it with a super strength jump spell, and you'll clear entire cells of the map in a single leap, only to splatter on landing because you forgot to also buff acrobatics. You are simultaneously the most powerful being in Vardenfell and the most fragile, because fall damage doesn't care about your intelligence score. Lore-wise, none of this makes any sense. No in-universe text supports the idea that drinking enough smart juice turns you into a deity, but some players have tried to rationalize it as a Telvanni meta-magic technique, which, honestly, tracks. The Telvanni are exactly the kind of wizards who would achieve godhood through what is essentially substance abuse with extra steps. The community treats this exploit like a rite of passage. Every Morrowind player eventually tries it, watches the numbers spiral into absurdity, laughs, and then either embraces the chaos or reloads a save. It's iconic precisely because it's so simple. No complex setup, no obscure glitch, just the logical conclusion of a system that trusted players not to do the obvious thing. And Bethesda clearly learned from this because every alchemy limitation in Oblivion and Skyrim exists because someone in 2002 drank 40 Fortify intelligence potions in a row and broke mathematics. But if you think making yourself infinitely smart is game-breaking, wait until you hear about the Oblivion build that literally erases you from existence. Oblivion, 100%. Chameleon. Every Elder Scrolls game has stealth rules. You crouch, stay in the shadows, move slowly, and if you swing a sword at someone's face, guess what? They see you. That's the deal. Then Oblivion came along and said, what if we just ignored all that? Here's the real kicker about Chameleon in Oblivion. It's not invisibility. Invisible breaks the second you do anything like attacking or casting spells. Chameleon is a percentage reduction in how visible you are, and it stacks from gear, spells, potions, all added together. Hit 100%, and the whole detection system multiplies everything by 0. You become nothing, not hard to spot, not sneaking in shadows. Literally standing in front of a Daedric prince's personal guard, beating him with a mace while his cronies watch and do nothing. Loot every container in a hostile room. Assassinate guards midday, 0 bounty. Walk through ambushes like set decorations, because functionally, that's exactly what they are. Getting 100% isn't even hard. Sigil stones from Oblivion Gates let you enchant gear with 20 to 25% chameleon each. 5 pieces of gear, and you're done. Full god mode stealth without investing in sneak. The system underneath tracks visibility cones, noise, light, and perception. But slap on these magic pajamas and it's all irrelevant. Here's where it gets interesting. Oblivion's stealth system is surprisingly deep. It factors line of sight, sound, movement speed, and even armor weight. That's real stealth complexity. Then Chameleon just says, nah, turning it into a binary switch, 100%, and you're invisible to the game. 99% and the full system applies. 1 point difference flips the entire experience from a full stealth sim to a lazy screensaver where you happen to carry a sword. Lore-wise, this is a stretch. Sure, Tamriel's illusion magic can cloud minds and bend light, but the idea that a few enchanted rings can make you permanently invisible to everyone, including powerful mages, Daedra, and cosmic entities, while actively killing them, that's less master illusionist and more Or the universe just forgot you exist, which, yeah, not ideal. The community has never fully agreed if 100% Chameleon is a legit high-level build or just God mode with extra steps. Some say it's a reward for mastering enchanting and grinding gates. Others point out it removes every single risk, and, risk is kind of what makes games games. Also, stacking above 100% does nothing special. It caps at 100. Wearing jewelry past that is just fashion. What makes this worse than Morrowind's alchemy exploit is what it breaks. Morrowind's exploits let you boost stats, but enemies still fight back. You still have to survive. 100% Chameleon? Danger doesn't exist. Enemies become props. Cyrodiil turns into a ghost town you stroll through like an overrated theme park. Skyrim quietly removed persistent Chameleon entirely, which pretty much says Bethesda's final verdict on how broken it was. But if you think turning off enemy AI is broken, wait until you hear about the exploit that turns off math itself. Skyrim Fortify Restoration Loop. Here's the thing about Skyrim's magic system. It's simple, accessible, designed so a 12-year-old can feel powerful in 15 minutes, and yet buried inside this streamlined framework is a feedback loop so broken it makes Morrowind's alchemy exploit look like kid stuff. The Fortify Restoration Loop goes like this. You wear gear enchanted with Fortify Alchemy, then you brew a Fortify Restoration potion and drink it. Next, you take off your gear and put it back on. When re-equipped, the game recalculates your Fortify Alchemy enchantments under the potion's buff, making them stronger. Then you brew a stronger Fortify Restoration potion, drink, unequip, re-equip, brew again. Each cycle explodes your numbers. Not by a little, but exponentially. After about 10 loops, your potions boost enchantments by thousands of percent. At 20 loops, the figures break all sense. You get Fortify smithing potions that turn an iron dagger into a 40,000 damage god weapon. Armor becomes so absurdly overpowered, the game's damage reduction maths just quits. Jewelry alone reaches values greater than every merchant's lifetime wealth combined. But here's the catch. Push too hard, and the game hits its numerical limits. Values overflow and stats flip to negatives. Save files can destabilize after intense looping, which is definitely not ideal. What's crazy is how easy it is compared to earlier Bethesda titles. Morrowind's alchemy exploit demanded mastering complex ingredient effects and layering hundreds of potions. Oblivion's Chameleon build required exact sigil stones and a full set of enchanted gear. Skyrim's loop, 4 pieces of enchanted gear, some flowers, and a few minutes of patience. That's the difference between casual play and Smash Dragons with nuclear damage mode. Lore-wise, this makes 0 sense. Restoration magic heals and wards. It's never supposed to recursively power itself into broken infinity. This isn't hidden magical theory. It's a coding oversight where the game recalculates enchantments every time gear is toggled. Nobody at Bethesda bothered to put a cap on it. The Dragonborn isn't a mystical prodigy here, just really good at taking gloves off and putting them back on. The community treats the loop like a holy secret. Everyone knows it. You can find guides everywhere, from quick 10-second clips to deep dive tutorials. Some players see it as a legit late game accomplishment, mastering enchanting and alchemy. Others say it's basically the same as opening the console and typing a cheat command. The unofficial patch tried to fix it. Mod users promptly turned the fix off, because sometimes you really do want to smush a dragon so hard the numbers overflow the game's registers. Philosophically, it's a weird one. It's not a glitch exactly. Each part works right on its own. Fortify Restoration boosts restoration effects. Enchantments count as restoration effects. Alchemy gear has enchantments. The problem is, nobody stress tested what 15+ loops does. Because who looks at a crafting system and wonders what infinity tastes like? And honestly, fair enough. But if the Fortify Restoration loop feels wild, wait till you hear about a game where reflecting spells back at enemies became a never-ending survival hack that turned a whole Daedric invasion into a joke. Battlespire Infinite Spell Reflection. Most broken magic tricks in this series involve ruining yourself, chugging hundreds of potions, stacking enchantments until the numbers go wild, crafting gear that breaks math itself. But Battlespire flipped the script. The most broken thing wasn't buffing yourself, it was making your enemies kill themselves. Here's the setup. Battlespire came out in 1997 and trapped you in a Daedric pocket realm, totally outnumbered and facing enemies that want to rip you apart on a molecular level. The game is brutal. Enemy mages hit hard and spam spells like there's no tomorrow. Your chances look like slim to absolutely not. But the devs gave you spell reflection and absorption as defensive tools. On paper, these bounce spells back at their caster at full power. In practice, they turn every magic-wielding Daedra into a very enthusiastic suicide squad. The trick is simple. Stack reflection buffs, get your uptime as close to 100% as possible, then walk right into the nastiest mage fights. That's the build. Because here's the thing about Battlespire's AI. It doesn't learn. An enemy casts their strongest spell at you, it's reflected back, and they take full damage. Do they stop? Change tactics? Try punching instead? Nope. They keep blasting spells like a karaoke singer with no off switch. You're basically standing in front of a firing squad that's facing the wrong way and refuses to turn around. Area of effect spells are even better because one reflected blast can wipe entire groups of Daedra while you just stand there doing nothing. The more aggressive the enemy, the faster they kill themselves. Your best defense is their own impatience. Now, this isn't a universal god mode. Physical enemies still crush your face. Reflection does 0 against swords and fists. But here's the kicker. Battlespyre's hardest fights are almost always magic heavy. The game throws sorcerers at you like confetti at a parade nobody wanted. So the reflection build doesn't just work on a few enemies. It instantly neutralizes the ones you actually need to worry about. There's something satisfying about it too. Think about it. You're a mortal trapped in a Daedric realm, facing magic that could erase you instantly. Your solution? Say no. You by literally holding up a mirror and letting them punch themselves out. It's not just broken gameplay. It's thematic poetry. The community treats this differently from other exploits. Battlespire has a smaller, dedicated fan base that respects the reflection build. It's elegant and contained, doesn't break the economy or corrupt saves or send characters flying into space at ludicrous speed. It just makes magic casters irrelevant, which, in a game built around magic enemies, is quietly devastating. It also highlights a common thread in Elder Scrolls history. AI is the real weak point. Every exploit relies on enemies being too dumb to adapt. Morrowind merchants happily buy your 47th overpriced potion. Oblivion guards never question why a guy is loudly murdering someone right next to them. And Battlespyre's Daedra keep firing spells into a magical mirror pointed at their own faces. But if you think exploiting dumb AI in a Daedric pocket dimension is impressive, wait until you see what happens when you combine levitation with stealth in a game where enemies can't look up. Daggerfall, levitation, stealth. Here's a question. What if the best stealth build in an Elder Scrolls game wasn't about invisibility, sneaking, or being quiet? What if it was just about flying? Daggerfall's stealth system is smarter than people realize. Enemies detect you through sight and hearing. They can see in a 100-meter semicircle in front of them, blocked by walls and doors. Hearing works in a 25-meter radius all around, but walls cut that roughly in half. When you step into either zone, the game rolls your stealth skill against their perception. Fail, and you're spotted. At low stealth, around 3, enemies have about a 23% chance to spot you immediately. At 55, you can get within 23 meters before trouble starts. It's skill-based and distance-dependent, grounded in dungeon geometry. Seems straightforward, but here's where it gets weird. Nobody at Bethesda in 1996 considered what happens if you're not on the ground. Levitation lets you float up to the ceiling, hover over patrols, and occupy spots enemies can't even detect. The detection checks use distance and angle but have zero concept of vertical space. Enemies don't look up. They have a flat semicircle of vision and a hearing radius. Hovering 6 meters above their heads basically erases you. It gets better. Some spells grant invisibility, but only while you're standing still. The game treats a stationary, magically concealed player as automatically passing every detection check. Invisible always, if you don't move. So imagine this. You cast levitation, drift to the dungeon ceiling, freeze in place, and layer on a stealth enchantment. You become a ghost. Enemies patrol beneath, never looking up. You watch them like a security camera with a crossbow. The practical effect? Whole dungeons become optional. Float over enemy clusters, bypass locked areas above doorways, and set ambushes where ground AI can't follow. Need to get to a quest spot 3 rooms away? Just glide along the ceiling and drop down when you arrive. The maze with traps and choke points turns into a straight line, up high. When you want to fight, you can snipe arrows or cast spells from above with 0 risk. Enemies can't pathfind to you or even notice you sometimes. You're playing a different game than the AI was designed for. Vertical advantage becomes your permanent edge. Is this an exploit? Technically, yes. The AI wasn't built to handle vertical detection, but it's also oddly immersive. A powerful mage who can fly should logically be harder to spot. Hovering silently over torchlit corridors as guards shuffle below fits the fantasy of a master thief wizard perfectly. It's a rare case where a technical quirk and the fantasy theme accidentally line up, making something both broken and earned. This all happened in 1996, long before vertical stealth became a thing in modern stealth games. Daggerfall stumbled onto emergent vertical stealth not because it was planned, but because they gave players a tool and didn't think someone would use it at ceiling height. But if you think exploiting bad AI detection is clever, wait until you hear about a spell that just deletes the walls entirely. Arena. Passwall terrain, deletion. Most broken magic in video games bends the rules. Passwall deletes them, literally. The spell lets you point at a wall in a dungeon and just remove it. Gone. No explosion, no dramatic collapse. The wall simply ceases to exist. And where solid stone stood, there's now an open corridor leading wherever you want. Here's the thing. Arena's dungeons are massive, sprawling labyrinths designed to disorient. multiple floors, staircases, dead ends that loop back on themselves, traps around blind corners. The designers spent serious time crafting these mazes to create tension through confusion. You're supposed to get lost, to wander. Passwall says, no thank you. With enough magicka, you open your automap, pick your target, and carve a straight line through every wall between you and your goal. Complex multi-floor mazes meant to take an hour? 5 minutes. Traps meant to whittle down your health, circled around by making holes where no door once was. Enemy ambushes? You approach from inside a wall they never expected to be breached. It turns dungeon crawling from a survival puzzle into a simple geometry problem. I need to go northeast and down 1 level. Let me delete everything in the way. Which, is not ideal for designers expecting players to follow their crafted paths. In some cases, players have even carved into spaces the developers clearly never meant for anyone to reach. Unfinished geometry, broken triggers, map locations that exist but weren't supposed to be entered from certain directions. You're basically doing archaeology on level design itself, exposing shortcuts and seams hidden behind walls that were assumed solid forever. What makes Passwall fascinating is the window it gives into Arena's design philosophy. This was 1994. Bethesda's team looked at their spell list and thought, yeah, let's let players delete terrain. That's either wild trust or a striking lack of care about balance. Probably both. The 90s RPG mindset was all about giving players powerful tools, and if those tools broke the experience, so be it, the player's choice. Later, Elder Scrolls games never brought back anything like Passwall. You can conjure fire, invisibility, mind control, even fly, but you can't just point at a wall and make it vanish. Bethesda learned that lesson fast. When your magic system lets players physically reshape the world, level design stops being design. It's just a suggestion. Fans remember Passwall with a weird mix of fondness and guilt. It's the best friend when you're 3 hours deep into a dungeon that all looks the same and you just want the quest item, but every cast feels like cheating the designers out of their intended challenge. The dungeon gets a little less dungeony each time a wall disappears. Still, on a pure reality-breaking scale, Passwall deserves a spot here. Other exploits mess with numbers or hack AI. Passwall tears the game world apart, erases boundaries, rewrites the map's very shape. You're not just exploiting rules, you're removing the space where those rules exist. But if deleting walls sounds like wild magic, wait until you hear about a Dwemer discipline that treats the entire universe like an instrument you can retune at will. Tonal architecture. Most magic in the Elder Scrolls manipulates what already exists. You throw fire, you heal wounds, you turn invisible. Tonal architecture doesn't do any of that. Tonal architecture rewrites the source code of reality itself, and the Dwemer figured out how to do it with sound. Here's the concept. The entire universe, the Arbus, everything that exists, is structured like a musical composition. Every object, every enchantment, every divine being corresponds to a specific tone vibrating through the fabric of existence. The Dwemer looked at this and said, cool, we can edit that, which is, not ideal for the continued stability of everything. Kagranak, the chief tonal architect, built 3 instruments specifically designed to interact with these fundamental tones. Sunder, Keening, and Wraithguard, not weapons, instruments. Sunder strikes the heart of Lorkhan and produces a single pure tone. Keening shatters that tone into 15 lesser tones, and those lesser tones can be rearranged and imprinted onto whatever the architect wants to change. New enchantments, new properties of matter, apotheosis, if you get the arrangement right. But here's where it gets dark. The Tribunal used this process to steal divinity from the heart. Vivec, Almalexia, Sothasil, all 3 became living gods by tapping into tonal arrangements they had zero business touching. And when the Nerevarine disrupted those arrangements during the defeat of Dagoth-Ur, all of that stolen godhood collapsed. Centuries of artificial divinity gone because someone scrambled the tones holding it together. You can unmake gods with bad music. I don't know what to tell you. The implications scale further. If Daedric princes can be understood as massive, stable tonal arrangements, each one representing different principles vibrating through the Orbis, then tonal architecture doesn't just threaten mortal enchantments, it threatens divine beings themselves. Kagranak apparently studied the princes specifically to determine which tones were worth incorporating, treating cosmic entities like reference material for his compositions. And then there's the elephant in the room. The Dwemer disappeared, every single one of them, simultaneously, across the entire continent in one instant. The leading theory is that Kagranak used the profane tools on the heart during the Battle of Red Mountain, and whatever tonal arrangement he attempted either worked too well or failed catastrophically. Either the Dwemer achieved transcendence beyond mortal comprehension, or they were annihilated at the subatomic level by a bad note note. Thousands of years later, still nobody knows. This is what separates tonal architecture from every exploit we've talked about so far. The Fortify Restoration loop breaks Skyrim's numbers, Passwall breaks Arena's geometry, tonal architecture breaks existence. It's a metaphysical discipline that treats the universe like an instrument, and the laws of physics like a song that can be rewritten mid-performance. What's undeniable is that tonal architecture represents the moment where Elder Scrolls magic stops being about what players can do within a system and starts being about what the universe itself is made of. It's not broken magic in the sense that it gives you infinite damage. It's broken magic in the sense that it cracks open the fundamental architecture of reality and rearranges the pieces. But if the idea of rewriting existence through sound feels extreme, wait until you hear about the mage who figured out how to edit the past, present, and future simultaneously, using nothing but shadows. The shadow magic of Azra Nightwielder. Azra Nightwielder is a name wrapped in shadows, literally and figuratively. Known as the original Shadow Mage, Azra wasn't messing around with your typical fireballs or lightning bolts. This mythic sorcerer tapped into a form of magic so powerful it rivals the Elder Scrolls themselves. Imagine a magic that can change not just spells, but the actual past, present, and future. Yeah, it's that broken. Before you dismiss this as some wild fan theory, hear me out. Unlike the common schools of magic, shadow magic isn't just about illusions or darkness effects. It manipulates shadows as if they were autonomous beings, temporal or dimensional entities you can command. Azra's experiments reportedly played with separating shadows from their casters, bending reality by turning these shadows into tools that exist outside linear time. This isn't just trickery, it's a narrative-level weapon that could theoretically rewrite causality and even identity itself. Officially, shadow magic makes its mechanical appearance only in the obscure mobile game Shadowkey. Yes, that N-Gage title everyone's forgotten exists. In Shadowkey, you briefly glimpse the kinds of powers shadow magic can wield, but because the game is so limited and rare, most players never experience it firsthand. Outside of Shadowkey, references to shadow magic are few and far between. It's like a forgotten piece of cosmic sorcery, a lost art whispered about but never fully explored or explained in the main Elder Scrolls saga. Here's where it gets weirdly fascinating. Shadow magic's connection to the Elder Scrolls implies it can rival those scrolls' quasi-divine power to shape reality. The Elder Scrolls record and sometimes influence timelines, causing dragon breaks, events where time splinters and rewinds haphazardly. Shadow magic, in comparison, seems to grant active agency to permanently alter the flow of time itself. Basically, while Elder Scrolls are baked in fate, shadow magic offers the power to rewrite fate's script. The implications are staggering. A practitioner of this shadow art could theoretically undo catastrophes, erase entire identities from history, or bypass prophecies, all by manipulating these autonomous shadow entities. The biggest narrative superweapon the Elder Scrolls universe has ever seen, wielded by the mysterious Azra. But here's the tragic twist. Azra's fate is shrouded in mystery. Some say he vanished, consumed by his own experiments. Others suggest he transcended mortality, scattering himself across countless shadows, becoming something less than human and more than myth. The very power that made him legendary may have also made him lost forever, which might explain why shadow magic is almost never mentioned outside this dusty corner of Elder Scrolls lore. Mechanically and narratively, this makes shadow magic arguably the most broken magic in all Elder Scrolls history, cosmologically powerful beyond measure, yet practically a ghost. It's a theoretical threat lurking beneath the surface of the series' stories, a secret axis of power never fully unlocked or controlled, the ultimate cosmic exploit, forever just out of reach for players. If you think mechanics like alchemy loops or 100% chameleon were overpowered, shadow magic blows past those in scale and stakes. It transcends gameplay limits to challenge the entire fabric of existence in Tamriel, and that's what makes Azra Nightwielder and his shadow magic such an enduring and haunting enigma. A lost art that reminds us, some magics are too broken for mortals to wield, and some powers are too dangerous to ever be fully known. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, click the video on the screen now.